Hey guys, Savage Joy here with Real Progressives. Tonight I am welcoming back Mr. Niko House from Mi Casa Su Casa. Thank you so much for joining me again, Niko.
Hey, Joy, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Today we're going to be discussing the fuckery yet again with Tim Canova. I know a lot of people are hype about it online, as they should be. You yourself are in Florida, so I was hoping you could kind of give us the lowdown on what's going on behind the scenes. I know you've met with Tim. Can you just kind of give us an idea of where the campaign stands and where we can go from here?
Yeah, so I've been working really closely with Tim Canova to figure out where to go from here and really gather all the evidence we have that there's clearly been some ballot tampering. There is this kind of like belief that it's if there was tampering, that it was like, oh, maybe they just destroyed ballots or maybe they're messing with the numbers. But from all the evidence that we've gathered, it looks like they're doing everything under the sun. They're throwing the kitchen sink at Tim, and it's really affecting, because of, just really how influential Broward County is. It's really affecting all of the races, as it's been reported in the news. Unfortunately, we've seen this kind of been diluted into a partisan issue, like it's, Republican versus Democrat, but it's really a nonpartisan issue. And Brenda Snipes, despite what Rick Scott is trying to portray, he believes should be fired. He has the capacity to fire her, and yet he's allowing her to do the recount that she obstructed to begin with. So
absolutely. And I don't want her just fired. She needs to go to freaking jail after, I don't know if you guys know this. A lot of things are coming up from 2 years ago when Tim ran prior. But, back when Tim decided to go independent, the main reason was Brenda Snipes admitted on camera that she illegally destroyed paper ballots.
After being federally subpoenaed. Yep.
Absolutely.
After being subpoenaed. So that's a big part of it. That's a big part of it. Some people think that like she just destroyed ballots, and destroying ballots is bad enough. But first of all, she's supposed to wait 2 years before she ever disposes of ballots. But even though destroying ballots is bad enough, it's even worse when you consider the fact that she did it only after being subpoenaed for those exact ballots, which shows that she was clearly trying to obstruct justice. But the only thing that happened was that she got a measly $200,000 fine.
Yep, absolutely. And, all this stuff is coming out. Like, my heart, I've talked to Tim a few times since, but my heart, it just breaks for that man. Like, yeah, so much is falling on him. He's fighting for our democracy. And unfortunately, so many people are so concentrated on Andrew Gillum, who also is in Florida. And Tim keeps getting overlooked.
Yeah, that's by design. It's by design. They're trying to make this about Andrew Gillum, and it's not about him. Andrew Gillum gave up on Florida within the margin of error. Like, what, 0.5%? Yeah, like 0.05%. It was an automatic recount. And I joke, but it's not. I'm not joking. Andrew Gillum's party, the watch party, was across the street from Tim Canova's office. A lot of people don't know that. And while we were still talking about how we were ready to contest the election at 4.1% at that point, 9:30 at night, maybe, Andrew Gillum's people across the street are telling us that he gave up already, that he conceded. And he wants us to believe that he's going to fight for Florida. I'm glad that Andrew Gillum didn't win. If this is his definition of fighting for Floridians, how quick would he have been to have folded under the pressure once he actually got in office? He doesn't even have any responsibility to anybody, and he already folded. Meanwhile, Tim is in the office in what he called, which was rightfully titled, the war room, because that's what we called it that night, because we all knew that no matter what happened, we were going to have to be ready to battle the next day. And that's Tim. He was upset. He was hurt. Not only upset about the outcome, but really about how many people that he considered friends that had betrayed him merely to politically expedite their career. I'm not going to say any names, but it's happened over and over. It's happened on multiple fronts and with multiple people. And this man has done nothing but try to win for the people. He invested his own money. I'm not going to say how much, but a lot of he is in debt. He said that openly. And this is a man who was a well-known, well-recognized, and well-established professor with credentials, more credentials than he's willing to talk about. And he's in debt now because he wanted to bring transparency and bring some integrity back to our democracy. And it's sad to see people betray him. And it's sad to see this turn into a partisan issue. And it's sad to see that this is being made about Tim Canovas' race. When Tim Canova lost, we know why he lost. It had nothing to do with rigging in Broward County, right? It could have something to do with the fact that he showed up with Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Hillary Clinton. That probably has a little bit more to do with that. But this should be about Tim. He got a chance to go on Fox and Friends. He got a chance to go on a separate program on Fox News. He's going to be going on Jimmy Dore's pretty soon. He's obviously on Twitter, still active, and it should be made about Tim. But CNN doesn't want to cover this issue. MSNBC doesn't want to cover this issue. The Sun Sentinel, even when they do finally decide to cover it, it's about, oh, she destroyed ballots. They won't say whose ballots. And if you've noticed, the two people who are probably the primary beneficiaries of this rigging, DeSantis and Debbie Wasserman Schultz, have been completely and totally silent this entire time.
Yep. Absolutely. They don't want to get into it because it may backfire on them.
Yeah, it would.
What can we do? Just like, I'm stuck here in Pennsylvania, and I message, Tim, and we talk and stuff. But what else can we do?
Right now, the best thing that I would suggest is obviously keep growing awareness, like obviously what you've been doing. You can still go to his website and donate because we're trying to get the campaign out of debt so we can continue to fight these things. And it's like I said, it's on multiple fronts right now. We believe that there was some what's called fraction magic. Now, luckily, Tim, myself, and Kelly Lane, if you all know her, Kelly and Tim kind of realized that there was some weird stuff going on with the numbers. Like even after 100% precinct reporting had happened, there was numbers fluctuating, but it was fluctuating in the wrong direction. And we wouldn't have probably noticed if they didn't make such a big debacle out of the fact that there were more ballots being found the next day. So as Brenda Snipes was finding more and more ballots, the amount of votes that were being tallied in Broward County's district actually began to be reduced. So it started out with about 264,000 total votes. And then by the end of it, it was about 251,000 total votes. That makes no sense, clearly. And this is after both instances. We have timestamps and everything. All three of the screenshots that we got were 100% precinct reporting. And then that was just one example.
Right. And then I'm sure you saw the video where the women are taking the ballots out of the machines, and all of a sudden that woman starts bringing stuff over to block the camera.
Julian, Julian's video. Yeah, absolutely. I'm covering that tomorrow. But yeah, I saw that video whenever he first put it out, and I saw the video that Joanne put out. Luckily, I'm so glad. Thanks. Shout out to Joanne, by the way, fan of my show. And she just happened to be at Tim Canovas' campaign. She showed me the video, asked me, was like, this looks like a big deal. And they told me they were bringing these ballots from other precincts. So I took it over to Tim. Tim posted it on Twitter. I did a video about it. Then Tim posted it on Twitter. And then Marco Rubio retweeted it. And I'm pretty sure Marco Rubio was out of the loop about all the plans that had been made and all the networks that had been created. Because he was like, what the hell's going on? Why isn't nobody talking about this? I don't get it. And it was a big deal. And I must say, just for the record, by the way, I have to give a shout out to Marco Rubio for maintaining this as a nonpartisan issue, despite the fact that Rick Scott has been trying to make this a partisan issue, despite the fact that the Democrats have somehow turned this into the Republicans trying to steal the elections that they already won here in Florida, which is kind of weird. Marco Rubio has done a very good job of making this just about election integrity. And that's pretty impressive given his history. So I do want to give a brief shout out to him. But that video that Joanne put out, that Tim ended up retweeting, got about 3 million views just on Twitter and another, I think, million or so on Facebook. And that video was of people taking ballots from other precincts and mixing them into that precinct. Funny enough, the only reason she even went outside was because when she asked why were there a bag of provisional ballots that were just sitting on the ground and why they hadn't been taken, they said, oh, the truck already left. She went outside to find out if the truck had left, and it didn't leave, clearly, because we see the truck in the video. And so she saw all these personal vehicles with no one accompanying the individuals, taking ballots from other precincts and mixing them into that precinct that she was at. All of that is illegal. All of it.
And then carrying them all in personal vehicles by themselves.
All of that is illegal. It gets better, though. So the other video you saw with the people moving the machines in front of this so they couldn't see the ladies counting, that was just one instance. Myself and my friend Suzanne Murphy were in there observing the people fill the ballot bags up because, you know, obviously we didn't trust them. And Tim was talking to people, you know, being a politician. And so we were like, well, let's go ahead and go in and watch to make sure that there's nothing going on. And so we're looking at this lady take ballots out of an individual pile. And like that was going into a bag. We saw the kid packing it. And then she was taking them and separating them and putting it into a totally different pile, but not doing anything with them at all whatsoever. So me and Suzanne are like, that's not normal. Cause I've observed polling before. That's not how it works. So she gets nervous. She calls the person who's the head of the precinct over, and she's like, "Who are you?" And I told her I was media. Suzanne said that she was with the campaign, and she was like, "Well, you need to be registered posters." I said, "Where does it say that at? That's not a rule. You just made that up." So instead of showing me what rule it was, she actually called Brenda Snipes and was on the phone with Brenda Snipes and said, "They won't leave. They're with Tim Canova." And she's threatening to call 911. Well, luckily, we were already on the way out. But she called Brenda Snipes only because we were with Tim Canova's campaign. Absolutely. And that lets you know exactly what they had planned the entire time. They were never going to let him win. And I encourage anyone to look at the total amount of votes that were casted in Broward County, which are roughly 800,000 last time I checked. District 23 encompasses almost all of Broward County, but yet only 250,000 people voted in that specific election for their representative. I'm sure that makes sense. They had more votes in that. They had more votes in Tim Canova and Debbie Wasserman Schultz primary election than in the general election between I think it was actually a total of 5 candidates in this election.
Incredible. Yeah, it's one thing after another. And, you know, Tim is a lawyer, so I'm hoping, I don't know where, you know, the way this is going to turn out. I know realistically and pessimistically, I kind of have a gut feeling. But I'm going to totally keep it real 100%. I really thought we had a chance to win this time.
I think that he won. I think that the reason they had to keep the votes to appear that it was such a low turnout because it would benefit Debbie Wasserman Schultz only really if it was a low turnout. If you really tallied all 800,000 of those votes, Tim Canova would have won. Yeah. No, I was on the ground. He's a rock star here. Not even just in Broward County, all over South Florida, but I was canvassing with him, walking like we canvassed, knocked on doors together. The man is a rock. People, oh man, Tim, good luck, Tim. I love you. Fuck that bitch. I want her out. Like, I mean, some of the stuff was so obscene that if I said it on my YouTube channel, I might get taken down, the stuff that they were saying about Debbie Wasserman Schultz. But more so than voting against Debbie Wasserman Schultz, which there were a lot of those. There are people who walked up to us while we were not in the lines, but at the lines, trying to convert people over to Tim. We didn't even have to convert people most of the time. They were like, "I'm voting Dem straight ticket." Well, what about Tim? Oh, no, except for in that case, because Debbie Wasserman Schultz has to go. Like, yeah. That was the sentiment almost across the board. There was no energy for Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And whenever somebody finally did, the 1 or 2 people we saw that eventually showed up for Debbie Wasserman Schultz were like sad because they're like, okay, I know I'm paid to be here, but no one likes this bitch. And this is really uncomfortable. Yeah. Like, it was like that. And the precinct that I was at was the largest precinct that had a total of about 18,000 people voting in that precinct. And they just tried to pretend like, you know, every single bit of effort and that we put in wasn't effective, and that he magically lost for the first time in political history 20,000 votes in a year when she became, and simultaneously she actually increased with more people in the race. She increased her total percentage of the vote for that precinct to like 50, I think it's almost 59% from 56%, which would mean she actually got more popular, which, let's be honest, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. So that's where we're at. And so we're fighting. We have several different mechanisms that we're trying to use in order to just push back, really. And the one thing that I think even Tim is more concerned about accountability than he is about winning right Absolutely. Now. And I think all of us are there because he joined because our democracy is in shambles. And it's upsetting to me when I see even you see Rick Scott and even Bernie. I love Bernie, but no, everyone's saying we need to recount. We need to count every vote. I'm like, everybody is talking about recounting, but no one is talking about accountability. And even if we did recount every single vote, the ones who cheated in the beginning are the same ones who are doing the recounting.
Yep.
So how are we expecting different results? That would be the definition of insanity. So that's where we're at right now. And we're just trying to, as a journalist myself, I'm trying to bring awareness like this is not a partisan issue. This is our elections are fucked issue. Like it's a little depressing because we've never really seen election fraud in our in our political generation talked about this much. That was like a no. You couldn't say that word. And now that we're finally here, it's being talked about all over the damn country. And yet no one still is calling for accountability. No one still is calling for a suspension of these elections so that no one can go, not a single person in this entire country should be able to go into office in Congress and Senate, whatever, unless every person's vote counts. Because when they go into office, or if they don't, they're representing the entire country. Their votes, their bills will affect the entire nation. And if someone gets in without, with illegitimately, or someone gets in or should have gotten in if things were done legitimately, that affects everybody. Imagine if Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was cheated out by Joe Crowley. We didn't say anything about it. She wouldn't be at the office right now with, protesting with activists to get Nancy Pelosi to stop taking money from fossil fuels and bring in a Green New Deal. That would not be happening. But also, we were all paying a lot of attention to that race. So like it helped to mitigate the possibility of that happening. And she's in a dominantly blue district where there's not as much control that can be exercised against her. But in Broward County, it's not like that. And this isn't the only county that's like that in this country. There are a lot of states where there's one or two people like Anthony Rendon in California, Joe Crowley, how it used to be for him in New York. It's like that in a few major key states. And until we start addressing the election fraud, I'm going to continue to feel like, other than ballot initiatives, and even then, I'm going to continue to feel like my vote doesn't count. And I think a lot of people feel the same way. I was talking to people at a bar the other day who never participated in politics before. They were encouraged to participate in the midterms. And guess what? Now they feel like they should never participate again because they truly feel like their vote is not counted.
Absolutely. And, the thing is too, like, Debbie Wasserman Schultz is so much of the reason we don't have our president that we fought for. She's part of the reason we have Trump. Like this whole thing, if Tim would have won and things would have been just, it would have sent a message to our entire country.
Yeah.
And that, of course, terrifies them. On that note as well, when Tim announced he was going independent, I jumped up and squealed and had a full-on happy dance. There are some people who say, well, that's why he lost. And I think that is such fucking bullshit. What do you think? What was your reaction when he decided to go independent? So
from a strategic standpoint, that actually is not it is the reason and it isn't the reason. Now, let me explain. He became more popular when he became an independent. Mm-hmm. He raised more money when he became independent. People who otherwise, not that they didn't like Tim, but they didn't think that he could ever win running in the Democratic Party against W. Washington Schultz, which is reasonable. And once the evidence was presented to him, he realized the same thing. And so he became more popular when he became independent. Now, it's funny that you bring that up because I said that this is very indicative of why Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard or anyone who is a progressive who tries to run in 2020 as president, they can't run as an independent. They can't, because this gave us a little glimpse into how much they have been screwing over independent candidates across the board for national races. Tim Canovas did not lose 25,000 votes after campaigning more. After everybody already knew about him, he's more popular than he's ever been. And they're going to convince you because he became an independent, he somehow lost 25,000 votes. That's not the way it works. Jill Stein didn't get 1% of the total vote. She's in the middle of lawsuits right now, and she's winning because when she went to do the recount, and at first everybody was for a recount, and then Hillary was like, oh, well, hold on, we should move on. We shouldn't even worry about this. Because I knew, just like a lot of people did, Jill Stein wasn't doing a recount because she wanted to prove that Trump cheated. She wanted to prove that both parties were cheating. And that's exactly what got exposed. There were people in Michigan, local candidates, municipality candidates, who are getting more votes total on their elections than Jill Stein got in the entire state of Michigan. That's the most popular Green Party state. So that lets us know once again, and this is what I always preach, we need to retake our infrastructure. There's nothing more important right now than any libertarian, Green Party, independent, whoever you are, even if you're a progressive Democrat, we need to regain control of our infrastructure so that we don't see things like this happening. We need progressives. Fuck voting. Voting is the last step. Are you a poll worker? Are you introducing ballot initiatives? Are you advocating for ballot initiatives? Do you know who runs your elections? Do you know who's running your board of elections? Because, you know, we got our supervisor elections, but there are board of elections at state level, city level, national level. Do you know who's on your state board of elections? Well, if you don't, then you've already lost and your vote doesn't matter. If you don't know who to hold accountable, then we can say Brenda Snipes is the problem because we know Brenda Snipes' name. But in New York, I can't remember the girl's name now, but we knew her name too whenever I went to New York and I found out that they were cheating people and they were dismissing their concerns. And I went into Board of Elections and I raised hell and I remember her name, and she no longer has a law firm that she practices with because she pissed off the voters. She remembered this. The citizens remember. We remember her name and we made sure that nobody went to her again. And she was forced to resign because the people have a power in their voice. When it comes to Bernie Sanders, the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez candidates of the world, the Rashida Tlaibs of the world, their power will not rely in the legislation that they introduce, because at first that will almost certainly get pushed and shot down every time. Tulsi Gabbard, same thing, because they're progressives. They're a minority right now, but they are the populace of the Congress and the Senate. Their voices are a reflection of our voices and vice versa. So when AOC did what she did today, she didn't have to sign a piece of paper. She didn't have to get all of her staffers to come in and write a bill. She said, hey, Pelosi, I'm here with the cameras. How you going to act? And guess what Pelosi went to Twitter and did? She said that she's going to create a committee specifically dedicated to environment. That's what a voice does. And that's why Tim Canovas is so important, because if we define our victories merely by by the establishment defines them, which is by wins and losses in their corrupt system, then we'll always be disappointed. We really will. But if we define our victories by what did we achieve, what did we gain, what did we learn, then we have been victorious since the beginning of 2015. We are more woke than we have ever been, despite how pissed off Bernie Sanders has made some of us since then. We are woke because of him. And I do believe he has a good heart, although I don't always agree with his strategy. Look at what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is. They can make this about her identity as a woman, as a Puerto Rican. But what I see is a young progressive who had nothing in her pocket and still managed to get to Congress and is still fighting. And even though they try to throw everything in, everything, including the kitchen sink at her, she's still fighting. Rashida Tlaib, she is a Muslim woman. And that is a big deal. but she won because she was progressive, not because she was Muslim. These are the voices of the people. Our revolution, big shout out to them, by the way, got tons of ballot initiatives passed in red states. They got like medical marijuana passed in red states. They got a lot of candidates in Congress. The reason that Congress flipped was because of the progressives who won. They're setting the example for us. And it is taking a combination of a lot of things like, yeah, they ran as Democrats, but they ran as Democrats because they had to. But exactly, the whole Dem exit Dem enter thing is like kind of like stupid in my opinion, like trying to feud with each other. Figure out what's going on in your state and what's the best way to win. That's all that matters right now. I don't give a shit if you're a Republican. I don't care. Win. Go win and be a progressive when you get to Congress or Senate. That's all I care about.
Absolutely. Well, I think, and that's one of the things that, I think that's one of the reasons why Gillum lost. His primary dream candidate, he wins, no more Medicare for all, starts taking big money.
The next day, he took that $700,000 in the beginning. And I reported on it, but I couldn't give a source yet because the source that I gave wanted to remain anonymous. But he took $700,000 really early on, but it wasn't in the reports yet because he didn't have to report it until the quarterlies came out. So yeah, but you're right. He should have never. What was weird about that whole thing was like, why, bro? You could allow it to us all the way to the governorship.
Yep.
And we would have believed your ass. I wouldn't. I mean, but most of the state and most of the country would have. But that lets you know, once again, he was trying to prepare us for disappointment. And I'm tired of it. I'm sure you are. I'm sure Floridians are. I'm sure this country is. This half-stepping isn't going to get you in office anymore. Believe that.
Absolutely. So what's next for Mr. Niko House? Like, what are you doing from here? Oh, before you answer that, I wanted to give people a heads up because last time I interviewed you, I actually only found out when I was doing the research. So Niko's the one who actually started the lawsuit which from 2016, the fraud
DNC fraud lawsuit. Yeah, the DNC fraud lawsuit. Yeah, that.
And we have a hearing December
11th. December 11th.
11th. Okay, so we'll definitely be looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's gonna be a shit show.
But anyway, I digress. What is next for you? Are you going to continue working with Tim, or what's coming up?
Well, a few things. As you know, I have the MCSC network, and shout out to everybody there. So we're as a broadcast journalist, I'm doing my part to create awareness. I'm working on the ground, obviously. Whatever Tim needs from me in that regard, I will always be available. And I'm doing investigative. I was up all night the other night. That's how I realized how off the numbers were and doing the comparisons, from then and now. So that's, my part of my job. And yeah, I'm also going to be running for office. So,
oh, really? 2020?
Yeah, for Congress.
Oh, that's what's
I haven't officially announced yet. But down here, Tim has just shouldered too much of the load, and it's time for someone else to step up and handle business. And I'm not running in District 23 because that's kind of sold up, if you will. But I am going to run, and I'm going to run in a nearby district that's vulnerable. We're going to win. Tim is going to help, and I'm very appreciative of his counsel. I'm very appreciative of all the support I have down here, and when I don't do anything to lose, especially when the people need it, And I consider the progressive movement my family. We all in very different ways have very similar struggles. I know what it's like to not have health care. I have TRICARE now. I'm very fortunate because I went to the military and I retired. I didn't go to the doctor my entire childhood and my young adult life because I didn't. First of all, I thought you only went to the hospital if you had an emergency. That's how I was raised. You don't go to the hospital just because you're sick. I joined the military because my family was poor. I got a full ride to college, but how am I going to get back and forth from home? How am I going to eat?
Yeah.
And, you know, all these things that people do in college, I couldn't do any of that stuff. What I'm going to do when I get out and I have to pay off my, you know, any debt that still may accrue just because you got a full ride, people overestimate what that means. There are day-to-day things. As a person of color, I know what we deal with. I had a single mother. I know what women deal with. And I'm tired of it. And I'm not going in for a moral victory. I'm going to win, and I'm going to bring the people with me. And if we got to march on Washington every goddamn day I'm in Congress, that's what we're going to do. Because I'm tired of this. The people are tired of this. And it's time to fight back.
Hell yeah. So I'm watching the comments and people are like really excited that you just said you're going to run for Congress. Is it safe to say that this is the first time you've publicly said that?
This is absolutely the first time I publicly said this, yes.
That's rad. That's badass. Well,
yeah.
People like yourself are the ones who make the best candidates because you're activists.
Yeah,
you don't come from politics necessarily. You come from grassroots activism.
In fact, I'm in a really weirdly unique situation because I've been involved in politics, but I've been like, there are people who have tried to co-opt me. And I tell people this all the time. I don't like people thinking like, oh, there's no way that no one's ever tried to co-opt you. You're right. There are people who try to co-opt me for the North Carolina Democratic Party. There are people who ask me to run for office to try and pretty much get me to shut up. I don't have it in me. I don't know what it's like to sell out. You know, I've had the offers, but I was raised different. I was raised better than that, and I know what's on the other side of that, which is every dollar that I would take from a corporation is a dollar out of the pockets of the working people. Every dollar that I would take from an insurance company is another cancer patient who can't afford health care. Not anymore. There's somebody we're at a point where someone needs to be bold. They need to be an outlier. Even if they're in the system, they need to be an outlier in that system. And they need to be unapologetic about calling out both the Democrat and the Republican Party. There's no more playing games. There's no more. I don't care about the politics. There's none. I'm not going to be cordial when Nancy, you know, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with what AOC did today. I think it's very strategic, and being, first of all, let me just say, being a woman in her position is very unique, and there's certain expectations out of her that she's trying to balance, and I get that. And she's definitely been putting her money where her mouth is recently. So I want to say that. But as a man, as a Black male, as a veteran, as someone who's worked in the corporate world, as somebody who went to a top school, I've been to the best school in the country, and I went to one of the worst community colleges in the country. I've seen what we need, and it isn't incrementalism. It isn't centrism. We need bold, revolutionary change, and I'm tired of the excuses. So
absolutely.
2020, hopefully we'll see House in the House.
Well, people are already asking me if you have a website so they can donate.
Not yet. The official announcement is in March. We're getting the infrastructure together, which, thanks to some friends down here, is almost damn near complete. That's part's almost there. So,
I'm still gonna blow it up that you gave me an exclusive. So take that.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm okay. But
well, I know
we're not dwelling. We're holding people accountable because every person's vote's supposed to count. But we're not dwelling. If anything, they give us a glimpse into how they work, and that's fine. I've been paying attention very closely over the last 3 years. I've been seeing how they operate. I've been, peeping how they move, and they're beatable. It requires a very specific situation. It requires a very specific amount of help, and it requires a certain amount of infrastructure that I've been working on for the last 3 years. And we think that we are there. I have some very good friends, some very good colleagues, and people like yourself. I have the independent media world behind me, and we're going to win. I really believe that, and we're not stopping there. If we win that, and we do, and we have the people behind us, and we feel confident going forward, then if nobody wants to step up in 2024, then I will. And that's just, and it's just going to how it's going to have to be. And my mom doesn't like me being in the spotlight. So I'm sorry, Mom. I apologize. But I'll be damned. I'll be damned if I go another 10 years of seeing people without health care. Because every day, I'm thankful that it's something that people kind of take for granted when they have it, right? I was in the military where people every day go to sick call, go to the house just to get out of work. And I get out the military and people are like, they can't get birth control because they can't afford it. They can't get, high level ibuprofen. They can't get the medicine they need. They can't go get psychiatric help for mental issues. They can't go find out if they're infertile. They're trying to have kids, but they can't go because they can't afford it. If you can't take care of yourself, how are you supposed to fulfill your potential and contribute to this society? Mm-hmm. It's impossible. It is physically impossible. There are days where I get down on myself and I have to kind of pick myself back up with the help of medication that I take. And I don't take it every day, but just being able to take it that one day will help me for the rest of the week. And I know that there are people who don't have access to healthcare. And I know that there are also people who don't have access to jobs, which is part of the reason they can't have healthcare. Or when they finally do get a job, the healthcare is too damn expensive and they fall into health problems. And then what happens? They lose their job. Everything is tied back to our ability to take care of ourselves or lack thereof. And that's the first thing that we should be discussing. That and universal basic income, so that if we do end up losing our job, or if we want to pursue a better opportunity, we're not in the clutches of crony capitalism that prevents us from pursuing the possibility of being the best versions of ourselves as we can be. Because when we can be the best versions of ourselves, that makes our country better, and in turn makes the rest of the world better.
Absolutely. And federal job guarantee for the win. Absolutely. What was I going to say? Oh, speaking of healthcare and stuff, I became very sick in August, and I have another surgery this week. And Tim, to give you guys an idea of how Tim is, he cleaned out his bank account. He took 2 years a hiatus from his job, and he donated to a GoFundMe that a viewer set up for me for all my medical bills. That's Tim. $27 comes to me for my medical bills, and all the shit he's going through. And yesterday he messages me and asks me how I'm doing. Yeah, that's the kind of person we need. That's who he's fighting for us. We fight for him. That is
Tim Canova, and he's a much more genuine person than what people know. And that's, he doesn't want to come off as seeing as too sentimental or too sympathetic or too empathetic, but like, that is the person that he is. He's not mad that he lost. He's upset because he can't be in a position where he feels like he can help the people the most. That's what he's upset about. It's never about ego. The conversation we had outside of his office privately, and I asked him, I'm like, how are you feeling? And he told me, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm upset, I'm frustrated. I just want to help people. And that conversation is when I made the decision. I said, take a break, man. Take a break. I got it. I don't know how I want to figure it out, but I'll figure it out. You have done so much. People from all over the country were here campaigning for him. People don't know that. People from all over the country were here in Broward County campaigning for him, knowing that the outcome would probably not be favorable for them, knowing that their money may not go into a victory. And yet because they believe in him. I believe in him. I believe in what he did. And Tim was the one who inspired me and said, you know what? The circumstances are not perfect for me. I'm by no means rich. I gave up my career in law to pursue this. I have full rides everywhere. And the people, I know what capitalism will do to you, though. Once you get used to a certain lifestyle, it's over for you. Once you get a family, it's over. But I put off having my family. I wanted to have a family at 22, 23 years old. I'm almost 30 years old. I'll be 30 December 27th. I'm not going to have that right now. I don't feel comfortable bringing my kids in this world, but I want to make sure that the people who have families here can take care of them. I want to make sure that they can have jobs. I want to make sure that they can have a house. This housing crisis is not going to cut it right now, right? And Tim was indeed, even though Bernie was my inspiration to get back into politics, I really avoided it on purpose. Tim was the inspiration that was like, you know what? I can't keep waiting. I can't keep putting it off. I can't wait until the perfect time, because it's never going to be a perfect time. Mm-hmm. He went into debt to see the country, put the country on his back, to put Floridians on his back. And it's time some of us start doing the same.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us again, Niko. And thank you for sharing that exclusive news with us. You can definitely read the comments. People are definitely excited.
I'm glad. So make sure y'all follow me on, if you're not following me on YouTube, MCSC Network. You can follow me there. You can also add us on Roku. We are the first independent news network on Roku TV. And you can also follow me, of course, on Facebook and on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at NikoCSFB. So I hope to see y'all there, and keep up. We're running for office. And like I said, there is no if. We are winning. And when we win, so do the people. And I really hope, I'm not joking. I'm not joking when I say if we have to protest on Capitol Hill every day to get our legislation pushed through, I want to see every single one of you all there. I'll be right out there with you, because it's not new. That's where I've been at. If you see my pictures, if you see my videos, you know I'm in the trenches with you. I'm holding signs with you. I'm yelling and canvassing with you all. And that's not changing anytime soon. If I got to be a congressman to go out to different states and canvass for other candidates to win with our agenda, I don't give a damn if it's a commissioner or a damn governor. We have to be able to get our hands dirty to get our agenda pushed. And that's the only way that we're going to be able to see progressives be successful in the short term and the long term. And if we're successful, then the rest of the world is.
Absolutely. You are awesome. You know, I always wish you the best. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm actually going to continue the conversation with these guys. I said I'd keep it open because this topic is so ginormous. So you can drop off when you'd like. But thank you so much, and thank you for helping Tim, and thank you for fighting still for us and for democracy.
And thank you for all the candidates that you've helped interviewed and help bring light to. Definitely a treasure to the progressive movement. I hope that you continue to grow from beyond here. I hope that you continue to be more and do more, and because your voice is very important. It really is. So, and I hope that continues to manifest. So thank you all. Thank you all for the support, everybody. Peace. Always remember, find your balance.
Take care. So that was kind of exciting. I did not expect that. That's kind of cool. I don't really know what to do with that. Yeah, I'm glad I asked that question. So we can still talk about this, you guys. What do you think that we can do in the future to help this so it doesn't keep happening? Are you a proponent of ranked choice voting? I know there's a lawsuit now that's going against it in Maine because it was the first time, and people are saying, that, it was unfair. It was the Republicans saying this. So ranked choice voting, but a lot of the candidates I interview, green ones especially, are very pro ranked choice voting. And do you want paper ballots? Do you want, triple counted videotaped paper ballots? There's so many things, so many choices. A candidate also exposed me to something called star voting that someone's coming out with. Yeah, and it's, I wish we could all chip in and send him a massage, because as hard as it is on us, I just, like, when I talk to him, like, my heart just crumbles. He's exhausted. I mean, anyone would be. It's so sad, and it's defeating. And, I don't know that anything's going to come of this. It didn't last time. So I'm trying to be, you know, realistic instead of pessimistic, but I don't want to get my hopes up. Yeah, Mark said, how about all of them? Clearly what we have isn't working. And I agree. I think, you know, you first open primaries, second, paper ballots, third videotaped, and I've interviewed 100 candidates, and there are so many different ways that votes are counted, and some of them you actually do fill in bubbles like a Scantron sheet, and then stick it in the computer, and it prints out a receipt. So it shows you that the vote was calculated, and also it gives you a number that you can even go home and check on the website to show that it was included. So that's something that is definitely cool to look into. Basically, at this point, I'm kind of like, I'll try anything. One of the things that was, I mean, it seems like it has to be, we have to start coming up with these amendments and rules that we've never had to come up with before. And it's really bananas. Like in 2016, one of the makers of the voting machines, they're called Diebold, and they own like several states' voting machines. Every single one in the state is owned by Diebold, and there are numerous ones. They gave Hillary Clinton millions of dollars in donations. They make the voting machines. How is that legal? So these things are all happening, and, you know, the internet is a huge detriment to them. And it's like we're going to have to come up with these clauses that you can't do this when it really should be a given that you shouldn't do that. Yeah, if you guys have a moment, definitely check these videos of, you know, the woman outside who caught them unloading things out of, you know, personal cars with people driving by themselves, and then also the people who were in the precinct who were being filmed, saw they were being filmed, and then hid themselves with barriers. It wasn't suspicious at all. So there's so much information out there. Even if you get a moment, please send your love to Tim. It's just so damn important that we flood him with our support. Believe it or not, there are people trolling his pages right now saying that he's a conspiracy theorist. Apparently, they don't believe their own eyes. I'm not sure, but I mean, to me, they're probably like vote women. They're those people. So they don't like him questioning, you know, votes from a woman, basically shills. That's kind of how they're coming off. But I went to, you know, give him props in one of his comment sections today, and I couldn't believe calling him names, telling him he's crazy, they're sorry they ever donated to him, and all this stuff. And then I checked another thread, and it was the same thing. And I'm like, you know, we got that in 2016, even though we had proof. But now Tim has even more proof, and you're coming at him. Like, put yourself in the position of leaving your job for 2 years, draining your savings account, and canvassing and calling and interviewing and doing everything with all of your heart, only to have it being ripped out of your hands again. and, you know, they're doing illegal things and not having to answer to it. Mark said was DWS commenting under an alias. Probably not, but she probably has correct the record doing it for her. The thing that's always so interesting to me, and we're seeing it again after 2016, they only try to stifle people who they fear. They wouldn't jump to all this shit and try all these things if they actually thought they could win. They know we don't want their stupid asses elected. That's why they do this. And, you know, basically there's a lack of pride because people like you and I probably wouldn't want to win if it wasn't justified. That's like not exactly an ego boost. Now, Brenda Snipes announced today that she is considering stepping down. Well, okay, that's fine. I'm not getting my hopes up, but okay, cool. Step down, go fuck yourself. But you still did illegal things and you should go to prison. Why are people in the government allowed to commit crimes and not have any ramifications? What she did is illegal in so many ways. Destroying paper ballots and admitting that she illegally did it on camera. I mean, who else can get away with it besides these shills? She was caught 3 days before the election right now, in the midterms, and hanging out with W. Wasserman Schill, like her and Brenda Snipes. Is that how you're impartial? Is you hang out with the person running? Yeah, that's not really allowed either. So the fact that they're hanging out in public shows they have no fear, and they have been invincible. Shillery, invincible. DWS, invincible. Brenda Snipes, invincible. These women, you know, they're just not being held accountable for anything. DWS was forced to resign for cheating. Why is she even allowed to run again? And why would anyone vote for her stank ass, more importantly? It's really incredible. The one thing I am glad about is that people who hated on us in 2016 are finally waking up and saying, Republicans cheat, Republicans cheat. Well, no, actually, if you would have cared in 2016, we probably wouldn't be in this predicament right now. But at least they're waking up that there is cheating. So even if we have to manipulate them to work it to our advantage, so be it. But I don't know. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know. I'm scared. I'm worried. I know that much. But, you know, I'll definitely be checking these comments. I always try. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm really excited that Niko announced that on my show. That's so exciting. I'm going to go blast the hell out of it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I have to go to the hospital again Thursday for a procedure, so I'm going to be out of commission for, you know, a few days again. But I will likely be back Friday, and I'll be bringing another activist to you. Since the campaigning's over, I get to go back to interviewing activists and heads of nonprofits and things like that. So thank you guys. Oh, Warren, Niko just announced on my show that he'll be running for Congress in 2020. So that was kind of exciting. Thank you guys so much for the well wishes. I'm sticking it out. I'm still going. But thank you guys again for watching. You're freaking amazing. I adore you all. And I will hopefully see you guys Friday night. Please share and definitely recommend Real Progressives to your friends. Thanks a lot. Have a good night.